Penguin Random House Audio presents The Lost Book of Mormon, a journey through the mythic lands of Nephi, Zarahemla, and Kansas City, Missouri. By Avi Steinberg. Read for you by P.J. Ochlan. To my father, for teaching me Middah. To my mother, for teaching me Midrash. Literature was born not the day a boy crying, "Wolf, wolf," came running out of the Neanderthal Valley with a big gray wolf at his heels. Literature was born on the day when a boy came crying, "Wolf, wolf," and there was no wolf behind him. That the poor little fellow, because he lied too often, was finally eaten up by a real beast, is quite incidental. But here is what is important. Between the wolf in the tall grass and the wolf in the tall story, there is a shimmering go-between. That go-between, that prism, is the art of literature. Vladimir Nabokov. There can be no doubt that such a creature exists, for in our museum we have its tail and bones. Father Athanasius Kircher. Loomings. Happy people don't think about angels, and they certainly don't see them. As for holding extended conversations with angels, that's only for the truly, irretrievably miserable. Despite our best painters' best efforts to ennoble this kind of behavior, we are, in the presence of our angels, just like that depressed donkey in the Bible who sees the heavenly messenger standing on the highway where others see nothing. What choice did he have but to give up and crouch down in the middle of the road? What good is being a prophet when you're a donkey? That the vast majority of Americans believe in the existence of angels, 80% according to most counts, is usually cited as proof of our foolishness or our piety. But that's all beside the point. What it really says, simply put, is that we are one of the unhappiest peoples ever to walk the face of the earth. And they're everywhere, these angels. There are, to paraphrase an old mystical tradition, as many angels as human worries, which means the number is staggeringly large and ever multiplying. It has been calculated, for starters, that 133,306,668 angels were cast out of heaven. That's about the size of the population of Germany, Spain, and Portugal. It should be noted that this number was but a fraction of the original quantity of angels, and that when you factor for population growth and the precipitous rise of human worries since the Great War in heaven, the sum total jumps a few orders of magnitude, each angel representing a discrete unit of discontent, and each tailor-made to fit the unique dimensions of that discontent. One angel, known as Sandalphon, stands 500 years tall. Sometimes, unhappiness is exactly like that. Young Joseph Smith swore that late one night in the fall of 1823, a spirit, barefoot and luminous, visited the cramped bedroom he shared with his brothers and told him the hidden history of America, a history that was engraved on gold plates, that is, gold pages bound by 3 large rings, buried in a hill down the road from the family farm. When Joseph dug up the gold book, which he did only with great difficulty, he translated it from its ancient language, also with great difficulty, and published it in 1830 under the title, The Book of Mormon. It tells the saga of the descendants of Nephi, a 6th century BCE Israelite man, from the beginning, when Nephi and his extended family take a boat from the Middle East to the New World, to the end, in the 4th century CE, when the Nephite people are destroyed in a giant apocalyptic battle. The stories told in the Bible and in the Book of Mormon basically roll along simultaneously for about 1,000 years along 2 parallel tracks, one in the Middle East and the other in America. Like the Bible, the Book of Mormon is organized as a collection of books, each named for its first-person narrator, starting with Nephi himself, who was born in Jerusalem, and concluding with Moroni, who was born somewhere in the Americas. The complete book is named for Moroni's father, Mormon, the scribe who edited and engraved the final version of the gold plates. 2 years before the Book of Mormon was published, author Israel Worsley wrote a book in which he documented the popular belief that American Indians were among the Bible's 10 lost tribes. The Indians, he wrote, once had a holy book, but they lost it, and in consequence of the loss, fell under the displeasure of the Great Spirit. But they believe they shall one day regain it. They are looking for and expecting someone to come. As Joseph walked along the glacial hills of northern New York, he came to believe that he was that man, that he would deliver the lost book. Joseph, like many on the American frontier, had long been impressed by the mysterious Indian burial mounds that dotted the terrain. The angel who'd visited him had explained that the mounds were in fact ruins from the time of the Nephites, that the big hill near his house held the Nephites' great literary treasure. The first run of the Book of Mormon was sold to the public as an account of ancient Indians, a prehistory of settlement in the New World. Joseph said that the angel who visited him was the spirit of the long-dead Moroni, the last Nephite. The angel had spoken about a world he had personally known and lost. It was he, when he'd lived as a mortal, who had buried the book all those years earlier. To Joseph, the angel Moroni wasn't a metaphor for something, a literary convention, or a figure in a dream. He was a handsome Maya, fluent in Hebrew, who lived 1,400 years earlier and came back looking better than ever, and with a lot to say about everything. I wanted to hear it all. As a youngish, still struggling writer, I was enthralled by Joseph's stories, and particularly by his impressive run as an underdog, an underground American writer, a cult author, you might say. A few years ago, as I nervously worked on the manuscript for my first book, I developed a particular interest in his experience as a literary rookie, a debut author, as we like to say. I was touched and amused by the writerly moments of his life, such as running into one of his collaborators shortly after the publication of the Book of Mormon and pumping him for sales information, only to be bummed out to learn that it wasn't selling at all. I felt only affection for him when I discovered that he'd received a prophecy telling him it was time to seek a Canadian copyright for his book, and, when that fell through, received another prophecy chastising him for being too hasty about copyrights. The Book of Mormon is about writing books. Every few pages, the story's various narrators describe to us how the writing of this book is going. Every narrator in the Book of Mormon describes how he wrote, why he wrote, where he wrote. Moroni tells us that he was tired of writing, but wrote anyway. Jacob frets neurotically about his talent. It can feel like a freshman writer's workshop with these guys. They work hard and complain a lot. They seem to be fishing for compliments. In a narrative with scores of characters and plots and subplots, the one constant is the story of how this book became a book. Its narrative arc follows the real-world physical process of creating manuscripts, of how the book was written, preserved, edited, and archived, and passed along through history, usually under the worst of conditions. 1,000 years and thousands of miles separate Nephi on the first page from Moroni on page 584, and another 1,000 years and thousands of miles separate those ancient guys from Joseph, the book's translator. But the one steady character throughout the story is the record itself, the book, the various manuscripts that Mormon edited down into the gold plates, which Joseph eventually excavated and translated. Joseph's ambition to publish his Bible struck me as a refreshingly honest acknowledgement of what it means to be a writer, a regular Joe with an unreasonable faith in oneself and in literature. I felt that there must be something in his story that would be of value to an American writer today, trying to stay afloat in the stormy world of letters. He had taken on the problem of life and writing, that dangerous question of where one ends and the other begins, by going at it like the best American picaresque heroes, like Saul Bellow's Augie March, head on, as he taught himself, freestyle, making the record in his own way, First to knock, first admitted.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?